Hello parents, welcome to my fourth message for you during this difficult time, completely optional. Each week I've been talking about a different parenting book, looking at the philosophy within it and messages that can maybe help you while you're at home with your children during this pandemic. My main message all along has been about sympathy and relaxing, not worrying about those small details, just making sure that you're giving your child that love and engagement and warmth. That's what they need long term, okay? But sympathy as well, okay? Everyone knows that this is really difficult. And don't forget, as I said in the first message, there's no prize for who gets through this time the best. There won't be a gold medal at the end of it if you've completed everything and you've kept your house really tidy. Sorry about that. If you were aiming to get some recognition, it's just not the situation that we're in, is it? So let's try and relax a little bit. The book I'm going to be talking about today is a revolutionary book. It's called The Idle Parent by Tom Hodkinson. And this book was published in 2008, so it's older than my child and quite possibly older than yours. It's a very prescient book, and just rereading it over the past couple of days, I've been just struck by how up to date it feels. It feels as though it was published in 2010. The main message is that in parenting, in family life, less is more, and leave the children alone. Tom, the author, says that our society is conspiring to turn children into future worker drones, bored but working tirelessly and spending money mindlessly in the pursuit of some shallow pleasure when their employer allows them a break. To tell you it was revolutionary. He says we toil, we get full-time jobs so that we can buy stuff that we feel is necessary, but it's not. And the stuff that we work so hard to acquire, it wouldn't be attractive to us if we weren't so tired from working too many hours. He has an important message about toys, which I really agree with. So it's about how those complicated toys can make for passive children. And I would say that the more a toy does, the less the child needs to do. And it's a real cliche, isn't it? From when children are really young, that they prefer the packaging to the toy itself. You know, we've all seen that, how the wrapping paper or the cardboard box is more fun. That's the way that little children are. So they don't need a toy where you press a button and it sings a nursery rhyme. They'd rather sing it with you. And you may think, oh no, but it's better because then it's sung in a professional way. It's not what they need. Basic toys that don't cost a lot of money. Now, you may not agree with the whole alternative lifestyle within the book. It is revolutionary, as I say. It's the real kind of the future as a capital construct theme. But I think there will be some of you who are interested in taking just a thin slice from the book to try and make family life a little bit more relaxing. Here's a quote. Being an idle parent is all about enjoyment and pleasure rather than self-sacrifice. Don't set aside half an hour to play with your child, but mix your work and his play and childcare into one happy and harmonious whole. Well, can't really argue with that, right? But maybe that's not working for you at the moment. And if you've got that complicated work to do, if your attention is needed in a meeting, then a child can't join in with that, can they? But perhaps you could see an element of your work, certainly your maintenance of the house and your garden, for your child to join in with. There's a really interesting section in the book where it's talking about children don't know yet what's a chore and what's fun. Year by year, they understand more and more of that. But we've all seen 3 and 4 year olds being fascinated by the washing up and really wanting to do it. And yesterday, my son was really interested in cutting the grass with me. I was seeing that, it's a chore that needs doing. It's not a terrible chore. I quite like tidying up the grass and making the garden look nice and neat. But for him, it was so much fun because he thought it was a toy, the lawnmower. It was like a gadget to use with buttons that did things, and he could see the impact of his actions. Tom talks a lot about children whining when they feel useless. That's when you hear the whine. They feel that they haven't got a productive role to play in the family, that they're not bringing anything. So engage them in the jobs that you're doing. You can adapt the schoolwork that you've been sent to fit in with your family life. And your child's teachers have probably been quite prescriptive, as some parents will prefer that. But I bet that if you slightly adopt the work that you've been given, adapt it to fit your plan for the day, I don't think the teacher will mind. If she's asked your child to do measuring in a particular way, but you end up measuring in a different room because you've got a DIY project going on there, and there's some actual purpose to it, it's going to be more memorable for your child. It enables you to do 2 things at once, therefore saving time, and it's going to be a pleasant way to spend time, hopefully, with your son or daughter. Tom also says, I quote, "When we split the world into good things and bad things, work and leisure, intrinsically enjoyable activities, intrinsically unenjoyable activities, we sow the seeds of our own unhappiness and that of our children. We can help our children to enjoy their lives by starting to enjoy our own." So that links slightly into what I was just saying about children not knowing what's a chore and what's fun. No one's told them yet. But there's a little bit of a concern, I think, about how adults often fall into a pattern of only watching experts do things that are enjoyable. So watching people bake very, very complicated cakes on TV, or perform very complicated dances, or listening to orchestras play at a very high level and going to a gallery to see expert paintings, but not actually baking, painting, singing, dancing, playing an instrument ourselves. And sure, you might not want the audience, and probably you'd be thinking, oh no, I'm really not good enough. Sure, you're not going to be an expert in all of those things, but to your child, you're going to be amazing. When I sit and I do watercolours with my son, okay, I really can't paint, and anyone who works with me will know that anything that's artistic at school is instantly delegated to another member of staff. I'm never the one that does anything artistic. But compared to a young child, sure, I can be neater in my artwork, and it's actually more enjoyable for me to sit down and do a little bit of watercolour with him than doing what I sometimes kind of feel I should do as a good mum, which is to ensure that he's doing it, but I'll get on and get some other jobs done. And I want to do that, and he doesn't want to sit by himself either. You think, oh yeah, this is going to be a chore, this is going to be annoying to sit down together and do the painting. Actually makes it more fun and more relaxing for both of us. And when you sit down with your child like that, and the pressure's off, because what are you going to do with your painting? You're not going to sell it, are you? You're just probably going to put it in recycling after a while. So the pressure's off, so the conversation begins, and this is just a route into idle parenting. It's not slob out parenting. It's not parenting without basic levels of hygiene and care, of course. but it is just skimming off that layer of stress and perfection that we so often put on ourselves. Last thing, the book reminds us to live in the present. And maybe the system that attempts to regiment children so strictly is at fault. How many days are we rushing out of the house? Stop playing with that, stop dawdling, we've got to go, look at the time. It doesn't fit in with a child's natural rhythm. They're caught up in the moment. And it's really hard for us to accept that because we have the agenda and we need to get going and we know what's going to happen if we don't leave right now. Put your shoes on, put your shoes on, put your shoes on, we've got to go. It's not idle parenting and it's not relaxing. And possibly during this lockdown, you may be able to find an alternative to that. From an early age, we do say to children, how was school? Did you do this? Did you do that? Who did you sit with? What did you have for lunch? We're asking about the past. And then we're talking about the future. Are you excited about this? Are you looking forward to that? What would you like to do when we get to... And we're saying to children, the present isn't a good place. The past is important, and the future will be important. But let's not worry about what's happening now because we're thinking about the other two states. And again, that's not how children work. They live in the moment. So I invite you not necessarily to accept all the revolutionary principles within the idle parent, but if you can, to just take your shoulders down a little, relax a little, slice off that layer of pressure and stress, and just step into the moment and just enjoy your child. Last quote, Epicurus, wealth, and he doesn't just mean material wealth, he means wealth. Well, I don't need to spell it out to you, do I? Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. I think that's a good way to approach the last couple of weeks of this difficult time. Have a great week. Next week will be my final message and I'll be talking to you about a book called Simplicity Parenting. So some similarities today, but a slightly different approach.